Kia ora talofa namaste, haere mai, and welcome to the Niche Cache. This is our podcast, the big old Aotearoa sporting podcast. And if we're chatting New Zealand sport, we've got to check in with the big woodsman because he had a nice start to the Premier League season and he scored a goal. Nottingham Forest, did they have a win over Brentford?
That they did. They had a 3-1 win and he scored 2 goals.
2 goals. Well, I've got one here in front of me and it is the Premier League tweeted out Chris Wood's football IQ, and it is, like, to me it is the epitome of Chris Wood because, yeah, sure, I'm watching it now, he's fast enough to chase the ball, but it's his anticipation and his movement, because he's already on his bike before the Nottingham Forest dude even, like, to be honest, I think Chris Wood's on the move before the Nottingham Forest teammate even thinks about passing him the ball.
I think that's the only reason he passes him the ball is because Wood's already moving.
And that's a crazy start to the season for Chris Wood, who is just in form. He's doing his Premier League thingamajig very, very nicely. But it was a similar move in the Wellington Phoenix women's game where you tweeted out Amber DeWitt, 17-year-old, scored the winner. No, she scored the winner. She set up the first goal and scored the second goal. This is the reserves game in the Kate Shepherd Cup. Semi-finals of the Kate Shepherd Cup. 17-year-old Amber DeWitt scored the winner. 16-year-old Katie Pugh set up the winner, and it's a similar little transition bit of excellence here because Katie Pugh, she does a bit of razzle-dazzle turn as a tackle. So it's like she wins the ball off the opposition, does a turn, it's 2 touches. 1 touch for the turn, 2nd touch to make the pass to Amber DeWitt, scores the winner. And I just found this common thread between these 2 excellent goals. Chris Wood, anticipation, movement at the highest end of Aotearoa football. And then you've got 2 teenagers involved in a winner for the Wellington Phoenix women reserves with a similar bit of transition excellence.
Yeah, no, because Katie Pugh is a player I've talked about a bit because she's scoring bundles and bundles and bundles of goals for the under-18s at the moment and playing in the Women's Central League. So she's absolutely one of the best prospects at the Phoenix, one of the best prospects in the country, but mostly for her goal scoring. So to see her, like, not just the ball into space was fantastic, and the run from DeWitt to anticipate it and then to, carry that run onto the box and then a great sort of just a good clinical finish. But also, yeah, the way she pressed up and won the ball in a wide area like that as well. So that's some big hype on top of that. And I see what you mean about how those moves overlap. Bit more condensed on the DeWitt goal, but then also not in that clip is the goal that they scored earlier, which was from DeWitt picking up the ball in her own half, playing a ball through in behind the high line of the Kashmir Tech defense, which Lily Brazendale runs onto, and like Chris Wood, looks offside at first thought, but actually has just timed that run so perfectly. In Brazendale's case, it's because she ran from inside her own area, so that shows how far back that pass was played from. But yeah, by both of those, the winning goal for the Knicks reserves, the Chris Wood's second goal, both of them came from good defensive shape, leading to a turnover, leading to a very quick transitional attack on top of that as well. So there's that overlap. It's, good stuff. It was one of my favorite moments from the Kate Shepherd / Chatham Cup semi-finals over the weekend. I think my ultimate favorite moment, though, was probably the penalty shootout between Wellington Olympic and Eastern Suburbs at Medill's Farm, which I got behind me on the video, which you can see, like, for some reason, they let the penalty shootout take place with like 30 kids just standing directly behind the goal, and capable of reaching out and grabbing the net if they wanted to, waving their hands. One of them added a sign. There's umbrellas everywhere because it was raining all over Auckland on the weekend. And yeah, the first Wellington Olympic penalty missed off the crossbar, and I'm thinking, referee's going to have something to answer for here. Just because I don't know what these kids are saying. I don't know what's going on. There's a lot of noise, but Wellington Olympic ended up coming back and winning that penalty shootout, though. Scotty Basale, the icon from the in goal for the Greeks there, saved a couple penalties. So it will be Wellington Olympic versus Auckland United in the Chatham Cup final, and it'll be Auckland United versus Wellington Phoenix Reserves in the Kate Shepherd Cup final, which I think makes Wellington Olympic, pretty sure this is true, the first team in history to make the Chatham Cup, to make Auckland United, the first team in history to make the Chatham Cup final and the Kate Shepherd Cup final in the same season. And also the Paul Eiffel, Ikau Kainu coaching combination at Wellington Olympic, who won it last year with Wellington Olympic, won it the year before that with Christchurch United. They're going for a three-peat too. So there's plenty of storylines there, not the least of which being as well, since we're talking about Katie Pugh before us, one of the best young female prospects in the country, well, Pia Vlock will probably be playing, if she's fit, because she did go off injured early in the game in the semi-final with an ankle injury, unfortunately. But supposing she's fit and hasn't been called up to start her Phoenix duties by then, it's only in a couple of weeks, so I would be surprised if it happens quite that soon. She could be playing for Auckland United against the Wellington Phoenix Reserves team that she's likely to be playing for in the National League.
Are they in the goal behind you? Like, are they behind the goal? It looks like
believe it or not, there is like a little bollard type thing. You can see it a little bit on this side over here, where they've got the little posts with this tiny little bit of like tape string, whatever, there to keep everyone away. So there is a little barrier keeping them away from the goal, but it's not much of a barrier. Like I say, they're probably leaning right up against it, and I'm pretty sure a few of them could like pluck a note on the net if they really wanted to. I was watching it being like, this is crazy. There's just so many. It's so like they're spilling out almost onto the field. The goalkeeper's right there trying to save penalties in a National Cup semi-final. But no incidents. It went all sweet, and the away team ended up winning.
For those listening on audio, it's a penalty shootout. Guy's ready to take his kick, and goalie's in the goal, and it honestly looks like there's 20, 30 people standing in the goal.
Directly behind the goal, yeah.
So
like behind the goal to the point where if you're taking that penalty, they might as well be in the goal because they're right in your eye line like that.
If someone smashes that ball into the net, like I'm sure someone's face is just getting absolutely mauled by a football. Like that is definitely going to happen. But that is Aotearoa football. We got animals doing poos on the field. We've got graffiti on shipping containers. This is Aotearoa football summed up nicely. You mentioned Pia Vlock, and just quickly, because you've got here Amber DeWitt. She was with Nomads in Christchurch, so I imagine she's from Canterbury, at least somewhere down south, Christchurch.
Yeah, Christchurch native. It's played for Canterbury United last season, I think. She's definitely played for Canterbury United already. Attacking midfielder from out of the Christchurch region.
Katie
Knocked a
Pugh.
Christchurch team out in that semi-final, Cashmere Technical.
Katie Pugh. She's formerly from Nelson suburbs, so I imagine she's from Nelson. So one of these youngsters, 17-year-old Amber DeWitt's from Christchurch. 16-year-old Katie Pugh is from Nelson. We know Ella Jerez. She's probably like 18 years old right now. Still maybe 17 years old, who knows. She's from Northland as a young Kiwi prodigy. Pia Vlock, is she from Auckland?
She is. She's an Aucklander.
So
quite a few at that Phoenix Women's Academy as well from Waikato regions, especially Hamilton as well. So, big wide scope of regions being represented there.
Represented in super youngsters excelling in Kiwi football. Like these aren't just regular old Aotearoa football prospects. These are young footballers doing great stuff in the local scene, progressing into the professional realms as well. We do have plenty to discuss today. We've got an all-whites squad, so we'll dive deeper into that. I'm sure we'll dive deeper into Chris Wood. Also, another quick one is his former teammate Ulanga. Is he departed? I saw him playing for Newcastle. Is that the same one? Same guy?
Yeah, Anthony Ulanga. He has gone to Newcastle. Bit of a bummer when that happened because he was one of the biggest assist makers for Chris Wood last season. along with Morgan Gibbs-White, who very, very, very nearly left himself. Tottenham were trying to sign him, and then they kicked up a fuss and managed to scare Tottenham off for like legal approach reasons and convinced Morgan Gibbs-White to sign a new contract. So he's hanging around. But based on what we saw on the weekend, it looks like Elliot Anderson playing in the Forest midfield, ex-Newcastle player himself, who went in the other direction, but a year or two before, as did Chris Wood, actually. Chris Wood, of course, signed from Newcastle as well. So seems like Elliot Anderson, Chris Wood might be the new buddy friendship to look for with those assist to goal pathways.
So we'll be diving into all sorts of flying Kiwis, all sorts of Kiwi football matters, as well as that all-white squad to break down. A little bit of cricket, White Ferns preparing for the ODI World Cup, and I just want to talk some Blackcaps T20 stuff, but nothing major happening for Aotearoa cricket aside from the 50 players currently in New Zealand, and the 50 New Zealand cricketers currently in England, but who cares about that? We're here to talk about Aotearoa cricketing matters. And of course, we've got some Tall Blacks basketball. They finished 4th at the Asia Cup, which, I think you can have a variety of perspectives, but ultimately when you chill out, when you meditate, when you just let it simmer, fantastic achievement for little old New Zealand basketball to be the 4th best team on men's basketball in Asia. Of course, the Tall Ferns, they finished 5th. So we're top 5 in Asia certified. That's official. No, that is undeniable. So fantastic achievement for New Zealand basketball. And of course, we will be going deeper into Aotearoa Rugby League matters, but we had the Niche Cage Derby. The Warriors versus Dragons on Friday night. And I'm curious, as a Dragons fan, now you did have your little double concussion situation, which was a bummer. It was a weekend for the double bangers because the Dragons had 2 concussions in the same tackle, and the Warriors woman had a double red card within the space of 5 minutes. Actually, let me ask you that, because let's go Wellington Phoenix men or Wellington Phoenix woman, whatever you want to do. So they're missing, 3 of their most important players. Wellington Phoenix men, we might go Rufa, we might go Ishige, and someone else, maybe
a bit of T-Pain.
T-Pain. So those players are already out of the team. All your young academy players are in the team. Like, you might have a couple veterans. Nagasawa, Paulo Retre's in the team. The rest of the team, of course, there's imports and stuff like that. Like, we don't need to be pedantic here. Wellington Phoenix, they're missing some senior players. They are full of youngsters playing their first, some of them their second A-League seasons. They're down 2-0. Then they have 2 red cards. So in the football example, Wellington Phoenix, they're playing with 9 players on the field. 7 of them are youngsters. They're down 2-0. Red cards happen. Second half, they score 2 goals. Opposition scores 1 goal. They lose the game 3-2. So you win the second half 2-1 with 11 players on the field and a very young squad fighting hard to lose the game but win the second half 2-1. How are you feeling about that result, that performance?
Well, I would be feeling a bit frustrated about what could have been without the red cards. But I'd also be feeling pretty proud about the fact that the team outscored the opponents while 2 players down. Not everyone can do that, That's the sort of thing. It does take a certain amount of team spirit and morale, certainly, because that's one of the first thing that gets challenged is when you're playing even just down 1 play. You start to feel like, well, I guess we've already lost, kind of thing. You got to fight off those demons, and then to actually then put up like the put in the hard yards to make up for the players that are missing, and everyone does a little bit extra and blah 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 to score a couple times and outscore the opponent over the rest of the game, I think that takes one hell of an effort, one hell of a display of heart there. And you might lose, but I think you can take plenty of positives from that, as the cliche goes.
That's what happened with the Warriors women. So last week before the game, Api Nichols, captain, fullback, Patricia Maliepo, one of your halves, Emily Curtin, your other half, they're all ruled out prior to the game. So you already got a young team. You're down a couple tries, which was a bummer. Then you lose 2 players due to red cards. Matakina Gray got a red card, then Taisha Ikanasio got another red card within the space of 5 minutes. The Warriors women won the second half 12-4 with 11 players on the field. Of the whole team, their average age was 24.4 years. They averaged 8.2 NRLW games of experience. Now, we've played 7 games this season. So the team averaging 24 years of age, they averaged less than a full season of NRLW because 12 players were in their first season of NRLW. That team, that group, won the second half 12-4 with 11 players. So it was a monster effort from the Warriors women, and you can't help but be proud of everything they're doing. And we'll dive deep into all things Warriors in a jiffy, but I do want to ask you, Dragons fan, when did you get your first frequency? When did your winning NRL game antenna receive its first transmission against the Warriors?
I'm just going to have to check up the exact timing of when the Dragons scored their first try, because I think that's about when it happened. I'm still not convinced the Dragons lost that game. I still kind of feel like
Well, you did.
Certainly, yeah. It was the 11th minute. Matthew Feagai went through and scored. But I think even before that, he scored the second try as well. I think he butchered a try before that as well, didn't he? Where he he had a great burst and he just didn't make the right decision on the back of that. But yeah, sometime around there. I mean, like first 20 odd minutes, I felt like the Dragons were playing excellently, carrying on from what they've been doing the last couple of weeks. They themselves down a few players too, same as the Warriors were, and then the bad stuff happened, and probably the 2 best, considering that Jaden Sewer isn't playing, like probably 2 of your best dudes in the forward pack there, Hamish Stewart and Jack DeBella, managed to take each other out of the game in the same instance. Then they lose another forward later on in the half to like a third concussion of the thing. And then I think Tyrell Sloan was the 18th man. So they activated him, but like that's an outside back and you've lost 3 middles. So, well, depending on a couple of those guys are versatile dudes, but not exactly like for like, right? So I don't think Sloan even came onto the field until maybe the last 10 minutes, by which time it had long felt like the Dragons were running out of steam without, playing this game without a bench away from home. Long since felt like the Warriors were going to do that thing, which I think it was James Fisher-Harris used the terminology afterwards, the fourth quarter mentality, which, yeah, sums that up very well. How they have won a lot of games this year is by being the better team in the last 20 minutes and making it count, which again, like, frankly, they did that here. And then Sloan, freaky little enigma that he is, nearly won the game right at the very end himself. But again, like, just he'd been on the field like 5 minutes at that point. Everyone else was exhausted. Well, I don't know why he tried to pass at all. Just run, just like out sprint the fullback, just keep going. You're the fastest dude on the field. But when did I start thinking the Dragons were in a winnable situation? Very early on, probably when that Feagai break happened with the one that he didn't score the try on. Certainly after he did score the try. When did I start to feel like the game was going to go against them, regardless of how well they played? the concussions were the tipping point, but it was definitely second half. Like for the majority of the second half, it felt like the Dragons, but certainly the last 20 minutes, just didn't have the steam. And that, I think, is exactly kind of what did them in the end, was that they just ran out of juice. But I am absolutely 100% utterly convinced that if those 3 concussions don't happen, or even if just the first double banger doesn't happen, I'm pretty sure the Dragons win that game. Not pretty sure. I don't want to hedge my bets or anything here. I'm saying I'm locking that one in. The Dragons absolutely definitely win if that's the case.
Yeah, it did feel like, because when the Dragons are on top early in the game, it's tapping into Warriors have lost 3 in a row. Warriors aren't necessarily that good at Mount Smart Stadium. So then all those like storylines are building, and you're like, oh, this is it. For you, it's positive. For me, it's negative. Like, holy shit, they're going to lose this game to the Dragons. This isn't good. But, grit and grind, long game Warriors, and they just kept battling. That was unfortunate, but Jack de Belin, I think he's like just a good middle forward, and he's probably he's your best forward. So him being out was good news for the Warriors, and Tyrell Sloan not playing. Now, you're not that high on Tyrell Sloan. In that team, if you just chuck a fast dude, I think it's helpful. Like, most wingers aren't very good defensively. So picking a winger based on defense, who cares? You do have a situation where he's not as powerful as Christian Tuipulotu, so I understand that. But if there's
but there's 2 wingers in the team. Like, they could have dropped Corey Allen, who isn't powerful or fast, which is what I assumed was going to happen when they said Tuipulotu because he only just came back from injury last week, played New South Wales Cup, and then when they said he was like one of the last cuts, they get rid of the excess, and he was left in the match day squad. I'm thinking, well, they're going to play him then if that's the case. They're obviously just waiting to see how he got through the I don't know, captain's run or whatever. But I was surprised he came in. It sounds like you were as well. I was surprised he came in for Sloan rather than Allen, where it just felt like, I mean, the thing about Sloan being a bad defender on the wing is that he's not even a winger. They put him there because he's a bad defender, because he's too bad of a defender to be a fullback. Can't catch the ball and doesn't cover kicks and doesn't tackle that well and blah, blah, blah. Compared to Clint Gutherson, who does all of those things.
Well, Clint Gutherson played as a middle forward.
Yeah, well.
So when Tyrell Sloan came on, he went to fullback. Gutherson went into middle forward, and I was just like, bro, like, this dude is trying to deal with Fisher Harris. Like, Fisher Harris running the ball was awesome. Aaron Clark, it's like, yeah, shout out Clint Gutherson, middle forward, prop. That's how you do it in the NRL.
Yeah, the fullback to prop pipeline that I don't know too many others have walked that one before him, but it's Gutho for you. I mean, yeah, just Sloan's X factor. Even in the last 5 minutes, you could see how that just could have made a difference against a Warriors team that has a few areas on the park. It's improved since last year, but there's a few places out there where you can target them for pace, and maybe a bit of a missed trick from the Dragons there, playing a little bit too conservative Flanagan ball there, but also at the same time, like, that was working up until 20, 30 minutes into the game.
If there's one thing the Warriors struggle with, it is speed. So they're not very fast, and there's a lot of really fast players in the NRL, and you saw it at the end there with Tyrell Sloan's break. He was just faster than everyone else. He fluffed the try, so maybe that's why he's not playing. But, like,
maybe that's why he's been told to look for another club, yeah.
And Christian Tuipulotu returning to Auckland. So I think it does happen a fair bit where coaches do try to get some of the New Zealand players, some of the Auckland players into their team. I don't think it's not like an official watch out for that, but it does happen. It does happen that you've got players who are like outside the top 17. They come to New Zealand, to Auckland, to play the Warriors, and then they're straight in there for a game in front of their friends and whānau. So that does happen.
He played really well too.
He did. So shout out to the Warriors, shout out to the Dragons for a valiant effort. it was a good one from the Warriors, but then you do have to remind yourself, yeah, like the Dragons were battling, so it would have been pretty disastrous if they if it stayed 10-10, sorry, or there was like a loss, or it was like a golden point. It's like you couldn't even beat the Dragons with, like, they had 13 players on the field, unlike the Warriors women, but they were missing 2 of their bench players, or 3 by the end of the game. So that was, tough. But how did you feel at the end of the game? Were you?
Probably similar to that Warriors women's loss, where it's like you lost, but also you showed plenty in the loss to be like, you can't hold it against the team who put in a big shift there and did their best. But that did also, I think, combined with the Roosters winning, that did also officially knock the Dragons out of finals contention. So, regardless, there was a bit of a blow there that went beyond just how that one game went and more how the whole season has went. So that's maybe a little bit more the combined feeling there was bugger. Like this. There was one of them ones that just felt like it wasn't meant to be, but don't you hate that as a sports fan when you get those ones? It's lined up. It could have been a win, but then it's just like forces beyond your control have decided, nah, that's not going to happen, and there's nothing you can do about it.
I do feel sympathy, but also the Dragons do like no recruitment from New Zealand, so they're not very high up on my Kiwi NRL rankings.
Yeah, Dragons are one of those ones who are a bit obsessed with their local catchments, which they've got a couple good players coming out of there lately. So Hamish Stewart is one of them, and unfortunately didn't get to show it in this game.
Shout out to everyone checking in on our website, theniche-case.com. You can also jam our newsletter twice a week, Monday and Thursday, via Substack, thenichecase.substack.com. Got a couple bits and pieces in the free section, and then there's a paid section with far more New Zealand sports coverage. So sign up to that. That comes out every Monday and Thursday. Full newsletters are copied into Patreon as well, so you can jump on Patreon a couple of dollars a month to fund the Niche Case. You get the full newsletter, and of course every Thursday we're recording our bonus podcast that is straight onto Patreon and is part of the paid section of our newsletter. If you're feeling generous, you can donate through Buy Me a Coffee, and we always just slow down with a bit of mindfulness. I did have just a mindful thought of like, anytime I feel like a fearful thought, my mind goes into anxiety or stress, I'm like, nah, I'm here to play baseball, no fear. Just no darkness, no negativity. I'm out here living my life like we're playing baseball. So I just wanted to put that out there for anyone who needs some guidance with their thoughts. Just do a bit of baseball. Release the fear, release the stress, release the anxiety, and go out there and play your natural game.
Yeah, play your natural game. Always good advice, whatever that may be, because it doesn't, that's the thing about the baseball-y stuff, is it's just hyped up as being super aggressive, but it's not necessarily that. It's not that by default. Natural game can mean a lot of different things. I had one written down here from within the spiritual sayings of Khalil Gibran, who wrote once upon a time, no idea when, no idea what the context was, but the most solid stone in the structure is the lowest one in the foundation.
The stone that the builder refused.
I guess so, except also they picked it first in this case.
Yeah. But that doesn't make sense to my Bob Marley mindfulness, so I had to twist it.
Yeah, well, I knew the well, no, it's not a cornerstone, is it? It's I guess it's the foundation stone. I don't know. I don't know what the exact. We don't really build stuff with stones anymore, right?
No.
So I guess the recipes have been lost with the ancient wisdom is slipping away from us. That's why we got to remind ourselves what Khalil Gibran once said about the most solid stone in the structure being the lowest one in the foundation.
Hangi stones?
Yeah. The most solid stone in the hangi is the lowest one.
That just sounds like logistics, or not logistics, but more physics. More physics, where the lowest has to be the strongest, the foundations have to be the strongest. And while on the topic of foundations, like I will bring this up in a jiffy with the Warriors, but just to bridge the gap between our mindfulness and the sporting stuff that we talk about, the Warriors have pretty good foundations if they have the highest completion rate and the second fewest penalties conceded. To me, that seems like a stone at the bottom of a structure that is the strongest stone. It is the hangi stone first on the fire that gets the hottest, that then does a lot of the cooking.
That makes sense. That tracks. The metaphor carries. I guess the foundation stone is the one that it carries the weight, doesn't it? Like it's got to prop up everything else. So yeah, if what do you say? Like good completion rate and a few errors or whatever it was, like that's the foundation that allows you then to go and do the rest of the stuff, that allows you to pile on bricks on top of this, like, on top of those bricks that are going to be sturdy, that are going to be structurally sound, that are going to build out into a cohesive, successful rugby league organization, not just, on the park, but off the park as well. If you're talking about other examples of foundational stuff, like, that tracks. That adds up.
Just quickly, a couple musical projects from Aotearoa that I am really into. I've been jamming over the past week. We have Geneva AM and her album Piki Piki, which is beautiful Aotearoa music, and it's also got one of my favorite songs ever. Urban Planning. Always gives me goosebumps. To me, it's up there, just one of my favorite songs ever to exist in the world, and that is part of the Piki Piki album. So check out Geneva AM. She does really good Aotearoa music, and it's like I don't know how to describe it. Just good music. She sings. I imagine she does a lot of the production as well. You can vibe along to it. Just good Aotearoa music, and in typical Aotearoa music, well, not typical, but the best Aotearoa music isn't necessarily part of a genre. It's just Aotearoa music, and to me, Geneva AM is that precisely. And also shout out to Softbait. I'm not sure if you've heard of Softbait.
I know Softbait. I've heard Softbait.
They have a new album, Life Advice, and it's just cool rock and roll music. Now again, it's not, I don't know what type of rock and roll music it is, but it's just it's upbeat. It's got some like fantastic Kiwi songwriting, and the Life Advice theme. I did check this out on BFM. Life Advice, like, because they come from like rural New Zealand or something, and Life Advice is just like the type of shit that small town New Zealand, like classic Kiwi bits of life advice and all that stuff. I've butchered that, but that's just my interpretation. And I like Softbait. I really like Softbait. They have I think their lead single right now is Long Line, which is driven by the lyric, I come from a long line of bad backs.
Don't we all?
Yeah, I'm sure we can all, we're all familiar with that, let alone all the other bullshit that is passed down to us through the long line of whatever kaka that our ancestors and forefathers, foremothers dealt with, some more than others, in different ways, in good ways and bad ways, but we've all been passed down some shit, including bad backs. So shout out to Softbait, shout out to Geneva AM. Any musical stuff that you've been listening to specifically with the Aotearoa flavor?
Well, speaking of lineages, I think Softbait's new album is on Flying Nun Records as well, which is,
Yes.
one of the iconic New Zealand, probably the iconic New Zealand music label, or at least one of, right on up there. Um, I've mostly been listening to the new OC's album, which is normally sometimes it's a 2, 3, 4 time a year situation is when the new OC's album drops, and then that takes up my attention for a couple of weeks. That is currently the phase that I'm in. That's one of the most prolific bands going around. I love them. That goes back years, and the new one is, I can't say return to form because I always think that band is awesome, but I do enjoy hearing them going a little bit in the more sort of raucous proggy direction that they've done at times. But then it's OCs are one of those bands where like they can't even stick to a name. It's been OCS, it's been the OCs, it's been the with two E's OCs, it's been OCs as 2 words, it's been OCs as 1 word. Like it's the name changes that often, the style of the music is changing that often as well. So it's always a good exercise in take what you're given. Enjoy whatever the John Dwyer and company happen to feel like this is the direction they feel like going on this current album. And I am yet to be steered wrong by them, and the latest one is yet another good example. I think it's I'd say it might be the strongest one for a couple of years, but what does that mean when everything, when they shift through styles and sounds so often? So new OC's album always gets me going, and this one's a banger.
Are they from New Zealand? I don't think so.
That's a San Francisco band.
Yeah.
No, that's a iconically San Francisco, Californian kind of band. Probably pioneers of a whole kind of, I don't know like the term garage rock. It just sounds too DIY. Like they're a serious band who make serious studio music. But it is kind of a label that's chucked on them. I don't know, but if that means something to someone, then they know what I'm talking about.
The Tall Blacks. They lost to China. Then they lost to Iran to finish 4th at the Asia Cup. And you said in our news that a very disappointing way to finish the tour. Earlier, I outlined that it's a overall broad perspective. It is a fantastic achievement for a New Zealand basketball team to finish top 4, especially coming after the tall Ferns finished 5th at their Asia Cup. So again, New Zealand, men, women, we're top 5 in Asia, and we're not a big part of Asia, let alone a big part of Asian basketball. So that I have that kind of broad positive reality. Like I think that is just it's a warm dose of reality. It's a warm cup of tea of reality with regards to New Zealand basketball, especially when you chuck in the under-19 lads as well. But maybe within the bubble of the Asia Cup, considering how they started the tournament to how they finished the tournament, I am open to it being disappointing. And you've got here the points differential by per quarter at the Asia Cup. I won't list them all, but we can go 4th quarter. Overall, they were plus 41. In the knockout games, they were plus 4. So there's a big difference there between the overall and the knockout rounds, which paints the picture of this being a disappointing finish to their excursion around Asia, because they did play a bunch of random games before the Asia Cup. How do you balance that kind of warm reality of where New Zealand basketball is sitting right now with how that tournament finished for the Tall Blacks. I'd also add, like, this wasn't necessarily a super duper strong Tall Blacks team. Bunch of top tier players missing, Steven Adams not included. Like, dudes who are actually playing for New Zealand. I will get into my, like, little, I don't know what to call it, but I have said this about Kiwi cricket, like, dudes who want to play for New Zealand, of the dudes who want to play for New Zealand, because Steven Adams has in no way, shape, or form, his actions have never told us that he wants to play for New Zealand. Now, well, there was a, I don't know if
allegedly he was going to play at the last World Cup. Allegedly,
right.
they had sort of coaxed him out and were confident enough that they were like starting to work on marketing stuff, and then that was when he did his knee injury. So that
right.
Yeah, obviously that was going to send him back a little while, but he's had opportunities in the past which he hasn't taken. So yeah, that's what you're getting at.
And we are Stephen.
Like, all he has to do is say I'll play, and he's in straight away.
Yeah.
You know, it's really entirely on his shoulders.
We are huge Steven Adams fans. So we are huge Steven Adams fans saying that Steven Adams has not gone full hundies. I want to represent Aotearoa. So that's fine. That's a cool position to have. But when we're talking about the facts and figures about Tall Blacks basketball, of the players who have shown desperation, have put themselves in the selection mix all time and time again, there were a bunch of those dudes missing from this Tall Black squad that played in the Asia Cup. So it's not like this was the strongest possible Tall Black squad either, and they still finished fourth. You were talking about the Tall Ferns and how goofy that kind of squad was. Players all over the show, depth being used, different players coming in and out. I don't even think that squad had a Ledger Walker sister.
No, none of them. It didn't have a single Ledger Walker. I don't even think they had a. I don't even think Mum was on the coaching staff as she has been in previous ones. You know,
and they still finished fifth at the Asia Cup. Like, you weren't too positive about what the Tall Ferns were going to do at their Asia Cup. They still finished fifth. Now we've got a Tall Blacks team that is basically a second tier group, and they finish fourth at the Asia Cup. But back to the original question, how do you balance the warm reality of the status of New Zealand basketball with a tinge of disappointment at how this tournament finished?
Well, I think the warm reality is the reason why I feel disappointment, because if I didn't have that warm reality and I wasn't aware that we have like this strong, deep basketballing deep depth. If I wasn't aware of that, I would be like, well, look at the players who are missing. What am I supposed to expect from this Tall Blacks team? The difference is I knew that missing a good chunk of what would be there. Like, there's a couple guys in the squad who would make a full strength Tall Blacks team. Flynn Cameron would probably be there. Jordan Ngatai would probably be there. Taylor Britt would probably be there. And I think now Mojave King would be there. Although this was his first tour with the Tall Blacks, so before the tour, we couldn't have said that. That's like that's still, you're still missing a big chunk of the thing. If I didn't if you're just looking at that specifically, you'd be like, well, how can you expect them to do anything? It's not just that they're missing the talent that they're missing, it's also the way that combinations have to change and rotations and all this, and like even the players who would normally be there are going to be in different roles, because Taylor Britt's now the main man, the starting point guard, in the absence of like Ty Webster or someone like that in the past would have taken that role. Maybe Corey Webster as well, if he was around, would be doing some of those duties. It's like, those guys aren't there. I'm curious what Flynn Cameron does at Adelaide as well, because I'm not sure that roster is set up for him to be a backup point guard. I think maybe he's going to be expected to play a lot more on the wing, but that wasn't his role in this tournament. You know what I mean? Like, Ty Smith-Milner just had to be the big man center because he was the only sort of, a little bit of Jack Andrew we saw in patches, but he was one of the least experienced players in this group, so he didn't play a whole lot. So even like the experienced players are having to do slightly different roles. Jordan Ngatai was captaining for the first time, so you can see how much that might disrupt a team's performance, and it probably did at this Asia Cup. Like, it's probably true that was the case, but such are the expectations that I still expect a All Blacks team of the type of players, knowing as well the caliber of some of the ones who were getting opportunities in this tour, having seen Mojave King look as good as I've ever seen him playing for the Tauranga Whai during the NBL, Carlin Davison and what he's been up to, and guys like this, knowing that Taylor Britt is good enough to be, a leading point guard at an Asian Confederation tournament like this, I was hoping they could sneak through to the final, and I think they were I think they were good enough to get through to the final. And I think the way they played outside of the first half against Iraq in the first game, where they got caught a bit sloppy, but they overcame that and won that game. The way they played through the rest of the group stage suggested that they were very much that type of team. And that's why it did get frustrating when we hit the knockouts and they just, all three of those games, because it's not just the two that they lost, they also beat Lebanon in the quarterfinals, but they had to come back from 22 points down in the first quarter of that game. That's how bad they started that one. So like the big lesson, the reason I wanted to look at the points differentials by quarters was because of how bad those knockout first quarters were. So in the knockout specifically, in those three games against Lebanon, where they did make a 22-point comeback and did win that game with a fantastic second half performance, they were good second half performances in all of these ones. They had positive, not as drastic as it was in the first game, which was boosted by them thrashing Chinese Taipei by 40-something points, but they still had a positive points differential in second quarters, third quarters combined, fourth quarters combined, even though that dropped, like, that's probably the biggest drop, or the one that was boosted the most by the Chinese Taipei thing, but also the comeback against Iraq, the way they held off against Philippines also helped them have be such an effective fourth quarter team through those group games. They were still +4 in the three knockout games in fourth quarters. Like, it's not like they were getting beaten in those ones. On the whole, they were slightly better than their opponents in each of the last three quarters, but they were outscored by a combined 37 points in the first quarters of those three games. They were, where are we here? They were down by 20 points after one quarter against Lebanon, had been as high as 22, down by 9 points after the first quarter against China, down by, what did I write this? 8 points at the first quarter against Iran. So just digging themselves into holes, which they did fight out of. They did make comebacks in the second half, but it's too much. And if you just had simple, efficient first quarters where they didn't keep getting caught out, where they were just a little bit more assertive and whatnot, those were all winnable games. And then we saw that Chinese team that beat New Zealand and did blow them out a little bit in the fourth quarter. They stretched away in the last couple of minutes, but New Zealand got within range on a couple of occasions earlier in that fourth quarter. That team only lost by 1 point to Australia in the final in a fascinating kind of back and forth, thrilling gold medal game. So they might not have been that far behind Australia either if they had just been that, a little bit more refined. And they did have a big preparation tour, so they were in a good place to hit the ground running. And just, these bad first quarters and first halves, just too much to overcome, especially when you do it game after game after game. And that is surprising from a All Blacks team, because you don't really expect them to use up all their energy doing the haka or anything like that. You expect them to build off of that. You're fired up and ready to go, but they did not look the more fired up team against Lebanon, China, or Iran. So it's a little bit of a concern, a little bit of a disappointment. Certainly the Iran game, I think by then it was fatigue was starting to dig in a fair bit. I think that was part of it. Plus also Iran had been absolutely thrashed by Australia in the semi-final. So it meant something more to them because they were playing for pride, whereas I think New Zealand expected to be able to beat China. And so playing for third and fourth was not something they were at the tournament to do. They had more of a disappointment in losing in the semi-final, whereas Iran, it was just it was what it was, and they were able to target the third place game. But within that, Mojave King absolutely announced himself as a key All Blacks player. He was a top scorer at the tournament with 106 points for New Zealand. Played the most minutes as well, just slightly ahead of Jordan Ngatai.
Wait. So,
King would kick. Oh, yeah, so go.
so where's he in the NBL, the Australian NBL?
Where is he anywhere? At the moment, he's a free agent from the Breakers, and we don't know what he's going to do next. He had his NBA, not draft rights, but like contract rights. Again, just a weird thing how NBA teams can have contract rights on a player who doesn't play in the NBA. But anyway, they got traded around a little bit recently. I think Indiana had it, and then they flipped it to New Orleans, who flipped it to, funnily enough, the Houston Rockets. So if he wanted to go to the NBA and try, it'd be G League, he'd be playing that. But go to the G League and try to earn your way into maybe a 2-year contract next year. Well, that would be in the Rockets organization where he would, well, at least they would have right of first refusal. If that's the plan as it stands, because, I mean, well, it doesn't actually, this isn't like, it's not like the A-League and the NBL. You can be a New Zealand / Oceania players can play as locals for Australian teams. So that's not a consideration, but he's got Australian citizenship anyway, so it wouldn't have been regardless. I guess maybe the reason that's more of a factor is because it's no issue for him to go and live in Australia. It's not something that he would prioritize. The Breakers, who have released him and didn't have filled up their roster, so there's no way back there. We'll see what happens, because I thought he was pretty disappointing with the Breakers, and I thought he was really, really impressive with playing in the New Zealand NBL and now playing in this All Blacks tour, which has flipped the script completely. I think teams are probably looking at it like that as well. Like, the guy that the Breakers released is not the player that he is now. They might have thought differently about that if they were making that decision at this point in time. So hopefully he ends up somewhere, because he's too good not to. But at the very least, he can always just go to Asia or Europe and get a decent contract there, and bit of life experience in that manner, like plenty of other Kiwi basketballers do. We'll see how that goes. Who else is of note here? Taylor Britt had a really good tournament. I think rolled his ankle in one of the games. It might have been the China game, and then he came back out, and I think maybe was still playing through that, but pretty sure he top scored in the Iran game, so didn't really notice it. Flynn Cameron also awesome. I think Max Darling, Carlin Davison, Ben Gold, like some of those young guys did have moments and flat, like maybe a game here or a game there, or a quarter here or a quarter there, where they were really excellent and showed why they were selected and showed what they've been building towards and continue to build towards. So there were a lot of good positive contributions in there. I think maybe they could really have used like a proper starting center, like a Tyrell Harrison type I'm not going to say a Steven Adams type, but a Tyrell Harrison type to maybe help them be a little more assertive in those first quarters, things like that. But on the, I guess this is why it's frustrating, is because even the games they lost, it felt like they could have won those if they went a little bit longer. Like, it wasn't a lack of quality, it wasn't a lack of even performance. It was just the bad starts were a little bit too much to overcome on each of those cases. So we learned a few things, and they still finished in the top 4 with an understrength team that didn't play to their capacity. I mean, I don't think Iran could have done that. I don't think China could have done that. I think they had to play quite well to get to where they did. So good yarns there. It's a little bit of a different vibe to the Tour Ferns, where it was like they also with an understrength team, but with a new coach on top of that, and probably even more of a unproven roster on the whole. They were quite encouraging in their defeats. They felt like they were, firing above what people would have expected from them, what I expected from them. And so that ends up being like quite a positive thing, despite the fact they ended at fifth, and then the Tall Blacks feel like they dropped down to fourth. But even within that, like I say, there's some nice performances in there, some players who announced themselves, and I think the addition of Mahava King to the wider New Zealand basketball scope is that's one that could turn out to be a pretty big deal down the line.
And also a sneaky bit of Breakers news. Kaia Isaac was on a development deal. He is off to college basketball in America, and like they've got their overseas imports pretty sorted by the looks of it. Are they in the? Do you think they're going to do another deal? Because they signed Tukaha Cooper, Northland's finest basketballer right now, I'd say, and Liam Judd to their development roster. Was that to absorb the loss of Kaia Isaac, sorry, or do you expect maybe another young Kiwi basketballer getting another opportunity?
Well, both of those things could be true. I think those signings were to absorb the impending departure of Kaia Isaac. We weren't to know that at the time, but I did think it was a little bit weird that they'd signed three players, all of a similar age, all like gun outside shooters, all of them quite big physical bodies. You know, the types of guys who, what we're talking about when they sign is like these are development players who, if the opportunity comes around, if there are a bunch of injuries and they're asked to step in and do a role that goes beyond garbage time, they could probably do it. Like they're more experienced than most development players out there. But then at the same time, it's like, well, you got three of them. That opportunity comes around for one of them. How do you pick which one of the three? It's not like things are aligned where you got a guy who plays this position, and this position. You kind of have three guys who all overlap to such an extent that now I think we can see that a bit clearer. Those two other guys were seen as absorbing the departure of Kaia Isaac, who's going to go and do what Walter Brown is also doing as his Canterbury Rams teammate, which is having a year of college basketball. Like not signing up for the full 4-year term or whatever it is and hanging about and like this is your development for the foreseeable future. Just the one and done, in and out, but not in a LeBron James. Well, LeBron James didn't even go to college. It's whoever an example might be. You play in
Stephen Adams.
The Stephen Adams. That is a great example. The Stephen Adams at Pittsburgh example of in there for one season and then straight into the NBA draft as a college rookie. These guys are going in as seniors. So this is effectively their last year of college basketball. They have eligibility at the other end of the scale. Dig in, do your bit for a year, and then maybe you declare for the NBA draft. I guess you declare for the NBA draft either way, because what do you got to lose? But then see what happens on the back of that. This is also like Kaia Isaac is moving to Texas somewhere, and Tama Isaac is starting his college career in the upcoming season as well with UC Irvine, one of those types of one of the California universities anyway. So Texas and California is quite far away, but not as far away as California and Auckland, you know. So there's something in that as well. Like the Isaac brothers are also both heading off to college at the same time. Tama Isaac will be around for a few years. Kaia Isaac is probably just getting the 1 year of senior eligibility, but that's what he's doing. And I think, the Breakers could sign another development player to replace him. They also have Alex McNaught, so I think you're probably looking at a forward or a center if you decide to go down that path. They might not want to like formalize anything with that, but we'll see. Like, it's an option, but that is the only spot they have open on their roster. They've filled their imports, they've filled all their proper spots on the thing. Might want to add another development player. We'll see how that goes.
Right, let's dive into the rugby league realms where the Warriors in the NRL, they are now fourth. And it's a fascinating weekend of NRL footy because Raiders are first, they play against Panthers who are fifth. Storm are second, they're playing against the Bulldogs who are third. Warriors are fourth, and they're playing against the dangerous Titans, who are last. I'll set it up. I'll just set up the whole club because it's pretty interesting. Because then the Warriors woman, they're playing against the Sharks. So even with that loss to the Raiders, and I did say this on the weekend videos, the Raiders woman, their one win this season may be against 11 players. They might not win another game. So it's a bit of a weird scenario where your one win this season came against a 11 player team. So that's just goofy. But the Warriors women, they're playing against the Sharks, who are one spot ahead of them. They have one more win than them. Sharks versus Warriors is in Hamilton on Sunday. And I think we have the Jersey flag Warriors as the game before that in Hamilton on Sunday. Yes, so the Warriors Jersey flag team, under 21s, they are playing 1:35 p.m. and the women are playing 3:45 p.m. in Hamilton. New South Wales Cup Warriors, they're playing against the Eels, so it's 2 games against the Eels in reserve grade under 21s, but that game's on Saturday at 1 p.m. Both of those teams had losses to the Panthers, and we'll keep learning about their progress this season. But we've got a Warriors women's team who, regardless of who they put out on the field, they can win this game. They got to get out there and try to get the win. It will be very interesting to see who lines up, because I think Emily Curtin is out for the season with an ACL. And hopefully they can have Api'i Nichols and Patricia Maliepo in that team, because that would make them a lot stronger coming up against a fellow mid-table team. But again, not only was that a pretty positive loss to the Raiders given the situation, they're still in finals footy. So they're 6th right now. They do have the same record as the 7th placed Eels, but they got a little points differential advantage that it's helping them right now. And the Sharks are 1 win ahead of them on the ladder. So that game's going to be very interesting to see how it goes. The one player who's impressing me the most this season is Kaia Isaac, and I think she is a player who has Kiwi Ferns, like a realistic chance that she might be in the Kiwi Ferns mix for the Pacific Championships this year. The one I was thinking, like, because Peyton Takimoana, she's scoring a lot of tries, but the Kiwi Ferns are very well stocked in their outside back department. And I've got like my upper tier for outside backs with the Kiwi Ferns right now. We got Abigail Roach, Mele Hofunga, Leanne Tufunga, Tanika Willison, and Shanice Parker. Then you're getting in below that, you've got players like Mackenzie Wiki. Taisha Ikanasio is actually my most impressive Warriors outside back with Kiwi Ferns context. But you can't go wrong with that 5 competing for 4 spots. Assuming that Nichols is going to be the fullback. Hufunga, Willison, Roach, Tufunga, and Shanice Parker are excellent. So there's 5 players trying to get into 4 starting roles for the Kiwi Ferns. And I still don't have Peyton Takimoana as part of the Ikanasio Mackenzie Wiki group. So that shows how much depth Aotearoa is building in Women's Rugby League, when the try-scoring ability of Peyton Takimoana doesn't necessarily automatically mean she's going to be playing for the Kiwi Ferns. Obviously, Matakina Gray and Ikanasio might be suspended, so that's going to be a bit of an issue for them. But you still got, I'm still pretty positive about this Women's Warriors team. And not only what they're building as far as their culture goes, but how they're developing as a rugby league team and what they are producing. So that's going to be a very interesting game against the Cronulla Sharks, who, like Tyler King's been playing as a utility. They also have Jadika Tafua. And we've got the Tafua connection coming out of Christchurch with Kaia Tafua, who is at the Warriors, younger brother of Jadika, who's the older sister. And then I also think, I haven't confirmed this, but might just do a quick Google search. There is Evander Tafua, who I think is with the Bulldogs. And he is the youngest of the Tafua siblings. But that's not confirmed. I need to sort that out. So that is to say the Sharks have a couple of wahine from Aotearoa. They're a decent team. Interesting challenge for the Warriors wahine this Sunday after the Jersey Flegg game. Women versus Sharks, Jersey Flegg, New South Wales Cup versus the Parramatta Eels. The Warriors men, they need some revenge against the Gold Coast Titans. In theory, this is a very easy game. Titans are last, Warriors are fourth. But the Titans beat the Warriors in Auckland a few weeks ago, and now this game is on the Gold Coast. So it's an away game for the Warriors. And
something tells me it's not going to feel like an away game, though.
No, it definitely won't be. It won't feel like... well, actually, we want the away game vibe. We want the team on tour. We want them traveling because that seems to bring out their best rugby league. But as far as the in-stadium experience, it won't be an away game for the Warriors. And it's this weird kind of boil-up pot where I am excited by the fact that, like, people are talking about the Warriors. Well, people aren't talking about the Warriors. Right? So people just pretend like the Warriors aren't a top 4 team right now. You look around any rugby league, Australian stuff, Warriors don't exist because your top 4 is Raiders, Storm, Bulldogs, Panthers. And those top 4 teams are playing each other this weekend. But the team that's 4th, they don't exist. Why don't they exist? Well, they lost 3 games in a row. They did lose to the Titans, who are in last place. You know, it's like it all comes together for I understand what's happening here, but I'm also very excited by the fact that the Warriors don't exist. That is great news. We don't want any hype. We don't want any buzz. We don't want any excitement about the Warriors. The Warriors are just doing the thing. We don't need the Warriors playing perfect rugby league right now. Wins are important, but we don't need Warriors generating excitement from around the Australian media circles, because I just don't think that works out well for the Warriors. I don't think they respond to that well, in the same way that they don't always respond to the big Mount Smart buzz very well. And I still want them to finish top 4 though. But then we've talked about the home and away stuff, so I don't think it really matters. But it's going to be a very interesting, because those 2 of the top 5 teams that play each other, they're going to lose. So not only do the Warriors need to beat the Titans to be like, hey, we're actually a factor here, like we still exist, we're still doing our rugby league NRL finals thing. They need to win for that reason, but they also need to win because 2 of these teams are going to lose because they're playing each other. So that is very important. And at this very important stage of the season, there is crystal clear clarity that Taine Tuaupiki is going to be the fullback for the rest of the season. Shans Nickel-Croxdale is going to be playing left centre for the rest of the season. And that sets up a lot of intrigue for me about how Taine Tuaupiki performs as the Warriors build into finals footy and then finals footy. The reason Taine Tuaupiki is on my mind is because of that final play against your Dragons, where it was actually Chanel Harris-Tavita popping up on the right side of the field outside Tanner Boyd, and he gave a short ball to Marata Niukore. So there's like, between Marata Niukore hitting a short ball and basically blasting his way 10 meters down the field, he finished with 80 minutes in that game. First game he's played 80 minutes this season, and a lot of people don't seem to think Marata Niukore is that good, but it was a nice moment for him where, you know, that was like the 74th minute. What do we got there? 73rd minute, and Marata Niukore has played the whole game. Then he gets into a short ball, carries a few defenders, quick play the ball. Everyone else is lined up to the left. So as you can see behind me, the whole Warriors backline is out to the left. And the Dragons defense isn't even fully formed yet. Like, they're still getting back to the try line. So in theory, you kind of have two options. Either you attack the most direct option, or if you make a break on the right, try to get the ball to the left, because that's where the space is going to be. If you make a break on the left, try to get the ball to the right. You got Harris-Tavita, you got Tanner Boyd, they want the ball. You got Shans Nickel-Croxstars out there, he's got his hand up, he wants the ball. It's the last tackle. What does Taine Tuaupiki do? Gets out a dummy half, engages a few defenders, gives Adam Pompey the ball, game-winning try right there. And it was the word that kept coming to mind when I was thinking about the Warriors weekend was how brave the women were, and then how brave that play was for Taine Tuaupiki, because it's the last tackle. You've got your playmakers wanting the ball. The most sensible option, given what's just happened, is probably just to get the ball out to the left. He gets from dummy half. He makes a play. Adam Pompey scores with his little shimmy, his little bit of footwork, and he continues to be a really solid NRL centre. So that play was like, damn, that was a good clutch winning moment for Taine Tuaupiki. And everyone loves Luke Metcalf because of Metcalf moments. Taine Tuaupiki, that wasn't the last minute, that wasn't golden point, but that was a Taine Tuaupiki moment where he went his own way and won the game for the Warriors with a very brave decision to get out of dummy half and take advantage of the defense on that short side. And yeah, now Taine Tuaupiki is, to me, he's going to be the fullback for the rest of the season. And that's like a part of that is Nickel-Croxstar playing left centre. I thought Nickel-Croxstar was really good at left centre, and let me double check this because he didn't have an official missed tackle. He was up against Buchanan. Buchanan's all right. Like, I don't mind the young Buchanan, the centre.
Second game of NRL, so
yeah, he's fast. He's a little powerful, little nuggety dude. But Nickel-Croxstar didn't register a missed tackle. Roger Tuivasa-Sheck didn't register a missed tackle. Between Nickel-Croxstar, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, Chanel Harris-Tavita, and then Eddie Iramia Toiava. So Eddie Iramia Toiava played left edge. Leka Halasima played the first 45 minutes, I think. 48 minutes. And then Eddie Iramia came on to play left edge, and Halasima came off. Between Nickel-Croxstar, Tuivasa-Sheck, Harris-Tavita, and Eddie Iramia Toiava, you have 4 players with hyphenated names. That's your left edge that finished the game against the Dragons. But my question to you is, how many official missed tackles did they combine for? Official missed tackles, not ineffective tackles as per NRL.com, but official, factual, official like a ref with a whistle, missed tackles did those 4 players combine to have?
The 4 double barrelers. I was just looking at Hayden Buchanan's stats, by the way, and because you mentioned his name, and it reminded me that my brother told me that he was, after watching that game, he told me that he thought Buchanan was just a UNH and regen, which I think is harsh, but also semi-accurate when I'm looking at a dude who he made his tackles for a wee fella. Couple tackle breaks, 135 run meters, but also 7.5 runs per carry, and made a couple errors. So he was really good on debut last week, but I think he struggled a bit in the nickel.
Wait, you said so. You're saying 7.5 meters per run.
Yes, as in 135 running meters off 18 runs. Yep, works out to 7.5 per, which is a long way behind the 10 per sort of benchmark.
But this is the thing. I'll leave answer the question, but that is the point. Nickel Clockstar is a monster defensively. Every tackle he made, it was like sneaky smashing his opposition. And it's like, if you've got a dude in his second game and you're being tackled by Nickel Clockstar, I think you're going to be put in your place. But the answer to the question is?
Well, I see that Buchanan did have 3 tackle breaks, so I'm going to assume they weren't necessarily, he got around the field a little bit. 2.
It's 1.
Guess.
Harris Tavita had 1 official missed tackle. Eddie Iramia Toiava had none. They do have ineffective tackles, but Nickel Clockstar, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck were both 100%. And this is fascinating for me. So first thing, Nickel Clockstar playing left centre, it gives the Warriors 2 really solid centres on both sides of the field. Like, there's no young centre Buchanan learning how to play centre in the NRL. Nickel Clockstar, Adam Pompey, 2 reliable, solid centres. And if we're talking missed tackles, Pompey had 5, Tana Boyd had 6, Marata Niokore had 5. So they combined for 16. So shout out to them.
Few of those probably Matt Fengai doing some things on the other side, as opposed to the Dragons being a little bit less effective on the other edge. But that is, you can look at the attack and say less effective on this side, on that side. But then also, as you say, the defensive work plays into that. It's not one or the other. It's those things are a combination of how attack meets defense in those matchups. So, sharp stuff.
But missed tackles aren't be all end all. Like, you can miss a tackle, you can get back and make another tackle, you can shut down the play. And I'd also point out the Dragons did score a try on the right edge, I believe, top of my head. No, Fengai scored both of them.
Fengai got both of them, so I don't know.
There was some play.
No, the Sloan break was from the other side as well.
Yeah, who cares?
Anyway.
But so, ideally, Kurt Capewell's playing left edge. So then you got Kurt Capewell, Harris Tavita, Nickel Clockstar, Tuivasa-Sheck. Fantastic. Because then Leka Halasima's coming off the bench. And I think the best bench, especially Jackson forward, he's out now, suspended, I think. So that's going to help sort things out. But if you've got Halasima, Vaimonga, Stowers Smith, and then Iriaramia Toiava, depending on availabilities, he's outside my bench there, but you got those 3 on your bench. That's awesome. I want Halasima on the bench, Kurt Capewell starting. If Kurt Capewell's unavailable, Halasima's on the edge, Iriaramia Toiava comes in. That's all good. But the flip side is, well, not the flip side, but the other side of the field, literally, we need that right edge playing together. A lot of chopping and changing happening there. Taine Tuaupiki was playing right wing to start the season. Pompey's playing both sides of the field. Neokore's playing edge forward, he's playing middle. Halasima's playing left edge, he's playing right edge. Metcalf, then Boyd, then Tamaita Martin. A lot of chopping and changing on both edges, but especially the right edge. So if we've got a really solid left edge, that makes the right edge solid because Pompey's there. Pompey and Watene Zalesniak are connecting. They're reading each other's maneuvers, their decisions. And if Niokore is building those reps with them, along with Tana Boyd, I'm feeling a lot more confident about both edges, where I'm always pretty confident with the middle. But now we've got Nickel Clockstar, because Nickel Clockstar loves to run the footy. We know that. So he's always making meters as a centre. And I really like his defense. And on the right edge, it's all about them playing a lot of footy together, something we haven't had this season. And in centre, I think in the NRL, the best centre combinations, the best centre pairings, you got to be switched on, right? You got to be mature. As they say, you got to, I think this is a rugby union language, you got to know your pictures, right? When they're doing this shape, I have played this shape before. I have played these players before. My teammates have played with me before. Because you got rules, you got regulations. When this player does this, I'm doing this. When this player does that, I'm doing that. And that goes for the opposition and your teammate. So it's like when my opposition does that, I'm doing this. When my teammate does that, I'm doing this. There's a lot of processing the pictures, the plays, and everything that's happening on the edges. It's very difficult. And I feel a lot more confident about this Warriors team. Like, I love Ali Leotawa. Partial to Rocco Berry. Like, I like Rocco Berry. But having Adam Pompey and Nickel Clockstar as your centers, I feel way more confident about that Warriors team with those two dudes there, especially if they're working hard in building the combinations with the players around them. I think it's going to be very important. And then, not only do I feel more confident about those center positions, then there is that clarity about Taine Tuaupiki at fullback. And he had 2 try assists against the Dragons. First one was a bit goofy, bit of an obstruction type of situation. So it wasn't like Taine Tuaupiki cut the Dragons apart. But he did give the ball to Adam Pompey out the back of shape. And then the second try that we've talked about. The Warriors, like, you can absorb Taine Tuaupiki's surrenders, which happened again against the Dragons. I think the Warriors can do a lot better to challenge opposition kick chase, like build fatigue. Like, you might see it against the Titans. They had a good kick chase at Mount Smart, but if the Warriors are getting into their system, into their flow, they're smashing the opposition, they're moving them around, then it's a lot hard. Like, good kick chase under fatigue is something that is rare. That's something that the Bulldogs do very well. I don't expect that from the Titans, but it takes the Warriors to execute their style of play over and over and over and over again to build that fatigue. Then you get Taine Tuaupiki bouncing around more. But he's getting into, like, creativity as well. He's a good passer. He's a running threat. He's learning about his shapes in attack. And he's always shown up defensively. Like, he's not a monster defender like Nickel Clockstar, but he is showing up. And his tackle efficiency is going up as well. First season, 67%. Second season, 76%. This season, 84%. So he's going up by 10% each year in the NRL. And he's got his try assists. He's got his line breaks. He's got his meters. He's got that experience of stepping up as a playmaker in New South Wales Cup. And he's also playing winning footy. He has only played in 4 of the losses this year, which is probably right. Yeah. So the Warriors have lost 8 games overall. So Tuaupiki's win percentage of 71 is, higher than the team's win percentage. And the fact that he had that play, because he gets smashed, right? Like, he's Taine Tuaupiki. He's getting smashed every time he gets the ball. Then he had that brave winning play at the end of the game after being smashed. And him playing fullback allows the other jigsaw pieces to slot in. And I'm very curious how he performs against the Titans, because he was playing for Burleigh, which is on the Gold Coast, before the Warriors. So he's got a lot of connection to the Gold Coast area. He might be playing up against Keanu Kinney, who's back in the mix with the Titans, but might not be starting fullback. And if Nickel Clockstar is like, I don't think Nickel Clockstar is one of my, I think for the Kiwis, his best position's fullback, because we got centres, we got Casey McLean, Sebastian Chris, Matthew Tomoko. They're all in the mix. You got Keanu Kinney. Taine Tuaupiki, if he has a good run through the rest of the season, he might be in the Kiwis mix as well. So there's a lot of moving pieces going on there. Ultimately, like, it was a great, let me see, was it Taine Tuaupiki's one of his best games? He had an offload. It was his first game with 2 try assists this season. Similar run meters. He had an offload. Like, he was pretty good. But as far as the moments, I think that was his best game of the season. And it gives the Warriors clarity. Now we're coming into finals footy where, I mean, it didn't start this way. Like, the season started with Taine Tuaupiki on the wing, Shans Nickel Clockstar at fullback. Now I think they're going to finish the season with Taine Tuaupiki at fullback and Shans Nickel Clockstar at centre. That's why your depth, your versatility is so important, because things change over the course of the season. And I think the Warriors to be a factor in finals, for the Warriors to finish top 4, Taine Tuaupiki has to be awesome. And then what he does in finals footy will be very interesting, because the thing I like about Nickel Clockstar is his style of footy is good for big game rugby league, where everything is just like, there's more fatigue, there might be less penalties, less stoppages, so you need your big carries from your fullback. But then Taine Tuaupiki has the flair, he's got the creativity, he's got the speed, as well as, I think he might be a better playmaker than Nickel Clockstar. How'd you, like, just quickly, like, what's your summary after watching Taine Tuaupiki at fullback?
I don't know how much I could add to that. He seems like the type of player, when you're watching from the opposition's perspective, like, you do feel like you can target him, and that you can sort of you put the kicks in the right place, you can restrict his ability to get kick return meters. If you don't, well, he is lightning fast, and he changes directions very well. So, like, if you do give him a little bit of a head of steam in those kick returns, you might get in trouble. He might just burst straight through. But you can sort of load him up on bodies and drive him back a little bit more. But he's a hell of a courageous player. Like, he's, for reasons you just mentioned there, you see how the ways in which he just, like, he gets smashed, he gets back up, he keeps going, he goes over and over and over and over again. And he is he's slippery. He's got a bit of X factor, and I think he's quite an intelligent player as well. And you can see the way in which this season, probably more than well, you see the way in which his previous NRL experiences have grown into what he's doing this season, where he feels like he is he just feels like a presence when he's out there. Like, he's the type of guy who is going to make something happen at some point along the way. And yeah, I mean, that's not I don't know if that's a profile the Warriors have a whole lot of otherwise. It's certainly not a profile the Dragons have a whole lot of. I think most NRL teams want someone like that, who can just, like, do something crazy at the drop of a dime, like just create something out of nothing. It's hard to find that, and he certainly has a bit of it. He's capable of that, and this was probably yeah, maybe, I mean, Luke Metcalf had I can't remember which the game was, but he had one, well, he had a couple of games sort of in a row where it was like those match-winning moments. You could see the way in which he just looked like 6 inches taller the next game after that. The way you can build off of that with confidence and feeling like I can go out there and win this game for my team. Taine Tuaupiki having one like that, like you said, they need him to be awesome the rest of the way. I think he very well could be awesome for them the rest of the way, because it's the type of not even so much the performance, because I don't know how much that was different to what he's done in other opportunities, other than the fact that he did have like he was at his best position of fullback in this game rather than being posted out on the wing. But being able to set up a couple of tries in a absolutely it's not quite essential 100% must-win stuff for the Warriors that game, but it would, like it was for the Dragons, but it was getting there. After a few losses, they really did need a win, and he was the guy who tipped that from what was looking like it might be a frustrating defeat into a take them however they come kind of victory. So I think that, then that's my vibe basically, is he just seems like a courageous kind of X factor player who you always need one or two of those in your squad just to keep everyone honest, just to keep defenses honest, and guys who are going to want those big moments at the end of the games as well. Like, those types of characters as well. I mean, it means something.
And when the Warriors were on the receiving end of that big moment at the end of the Dolphins game, Taine Tuaupiki was filthy on himself for not being there to stop it. So that's like another thing. Like against the Dragons, he handled all the kicks. Like, yeah, you can target him with the kicks, but he's going to have a crack. I think he's pretty safe. Like, you can jump over him, but I still think he's pretty safe. Like, he makes defensive plays, even though he is not as big as Nickel Clockster. He is going to try to tackle you, and he might just chop you down at the leg. So I like it. And also, he's popping up on the right edge. So that combination with Tanner Boyd is very important. There was Harris Tavita sweeping over to the right, but it's the combination with Tanner Boyd that's most important on the right edge, and then it's Tanner Boyd and Harris Tavita pushing out wider on the left edge. So just look out for Taine Tuaupiki on the right edge, and then does he pop up on the left edge? Because that will be, when you're talking about those defensive pictures that you're reading, opposition teams probably won't be prepared to look up and see Taine Tuaupiki on that left edge, because he's usually on the right edge. Quickly, 6 players averaged 10 meters per run against the Dragons. Do you want to have a crack at naming them?
6 players. That's going to get a bit depressing if I start listing everyone and then they're all true. Fisher Harris feels like he would have to.
Let me say, okay, forwards: Fisher Harris, Marata Niokore, Aaron Clark. 3 backs. One of them's obvious.
Roger Tuivasa-Sheck.
Then we got 2 more. Who do you think they are? Not Nickel Clockster.
No, he'd probably have been a guess otherwise. Is Tuaupiki one of them?
Not Tuaupiki.
Okay. Adam Pompey.
Adam Pompey's one. 11.3 meters.
I thought he had a good game in that one, and I think he's had quite a few good games for the way, kind of one of the undercover heroes, really, of
Mr. Reliable
Warriors this season. Absolutely. And the other would be Wade Egan.
Well, he's not a back. But
that doesn't count as a back. Yeah. I don't know why they don't count as backs. They're not in the scrum. They feed the scrum, but whatever.
Well, you can't say he's a back if he's literally defending in the most central.
Yeah, I guess that's if you're looking from that perspective.
That's crazy. You put him in the same category as like Watane Selesniak, where Wade Egan is like he's making 44 tackles, but he's a back like Watane Selesniak. That would be insane.
Well, I did like how Wade Egan, by the way, on both of the concussion instances, was like the first guy to go and check on the players as well. I thought that was nice sportsmanship from him. I'll give him a bit of a shout out for that while we're at it.
Big up.
I still think he could do a job at fullback, but that's not his role. he's stuck in the forwards, stuck in the middle there. What's Nathan Lesniak then?
It's the one and only. The one and only
players. I can't remember who else played.
Tanner Boyd.
No way. Why do you know? I went through the halves in my head. That's how I went from halves to hooker. I was thinking it's probably not them. So there you go.
10.5 meters per run, and that was another addition that I liked. Tanner Boyd not only running the footy but getting behind the ruck, targeting that area. I think that's somewhere where Taine Tuaupiki can do a lot better, is being fast behind the ruck. But Tanner Boyd was busy running the footy. That's what he needs to do because it keeps everyone honest in front of him. That sets up everything else. And I'm not sure if you remember that, so this version of Tanner Boyd, I think, is Tana Umanga Boyd. But there was an ad back in the day, I can't remember what it was, and it was like this, because some kid's pretending he's Tana Uma, he's like, Tana, and then another kid says, Tana Shmana. And I was like, there's two versions of Tana Boyd we've dealt with. Tana Umanga Boyd and Tana Shmana Boyd. So right now we're dealing with Tana Umanga Boyd, 10.5 meters per run. He didn't hit the 400 kick meters, 100 run meters, but he wasn't far off, and he averaged 10 meters per run, which we love to see as well. Very quickly, I have been enjoying the work of Jordan Riki at the Broncos. And this is his first season of NRL footy averaging over 104 meters, averaging over 100 meters per game. He's averaging 104 meters. And usually more game time means more meters. But the thing about Jordan Riki, he's 25 years old, and I don't know, for like 3 seasons, maybe 4 seasons, he's usually playing 80 minutes. He was a phenom in New Zealand. This is how it looks at the NRL level for a player like Jordan Riki. Maybe not all the flashy stuff. Jordan Riki doesn't have Halasima moments, but he's just 80 minutes every week. Now he's added a bit more oomph. Now he's added a bit more running work, as well as all his defensive stuff that made him a consistent NRL edge forward. Now he's got a bit more running oomph with Michael Maguire. And it's not because of minutes. So this season he's averaging 104 meters per game, averaging 77.4 minutes per game. Last season he averaged 81 meters in 78 minutes per game. So 20 less meters in roughly 1 more minute of footy. And I think that's very useful for Jordan Riki at the Broncos, and also in the Kiwis mixer as well. Update the Kiwis mixer, we've had Xavier Willison, he's been out injured. Griffin Neem's been out injured. But Brandon Smith has come back into the mix. And I haven't really thought about a Kiwis team with Brandon Smith in it, but I think he's got to be in it. I think he is a very good bench player for the Kiwis. I think you start with Jeremy Marshall-King at hooker, then you got Brandon Smith who can cover small forward, he can cover hooker as well. The cool thing about the Kiwis right now is we got a bunch of edge forwards who are doing really well. Maratuni Okori with the Warriors, Isaiah Papali'i on the up with the Panthers, and Britton Nikora, always really good for the Sharks. So you got 4 edge forwards there who I like. And I'd also like Nofahu White. He's been excellent in any game he's played for the Kiwis. He's been excellent for the Roosters for a while now. No Willison, no Griffin Neame. Now we're just like looking at Leo Thompson, Nofahu White, and Aaron Clark as middle forwards for the Kiwis behind the Fisher, Harris, Joseph, Tapine tier. Leo Thompson and their Knights, they're not very good. So that's kind of impacting the perspective on Leo Thompson. Nofahu White is doing some great stuff with the Roosters, playing more minutes with the Roosters and just in form. So I think Nofahu White, he may have started games for the Kiwis before, I'm not sure. But he is certified top 17. Like him, Leo Thompson, Aaron Clark's there, I reckon, now as well. And you've got a bit of edge middle versatility with Marata Niokore and Isaiah Papali'i. They can play both of those positions. And Jordan Riki, when he made his debut in Christchurch last year, I think he did play through the middle. So if Jordan Riki can cover edge and middle for the Kiwis, that's going to add to his selection case. And I'd also throw out Joe Chan, who's doing some great stuff for the Storm. He's playing centre, he's playing edge forward, he's playing middle forward, he's doing everything for the Storm. He played for New Zealand A in 2023. I think he's cousins with Casey and Jesse McLean. I think Joe Chan's father might have played for the Kiwis and the Storm, Alex Chan. So he could play, like I think he's born and raised in Australia. I think he's Samoan as well. But I think that whānau connection to the Kiwis might make him a contender for the Kiwis this year. Last year he averaged 38.7 minutes per game. That's gone up to 46.2 minutes per game. He's already played 13 games this season compared to his 11 games last season. He's in my mixer. He is in my mixer as a very versatile rugby league footballer. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Oblaks Tafa play for the Kiwis at some point in the next few years either. I don't think anyone's better than Alec MacDonald for the Storm. Like he's way better than Fisher Harris and Joseph Tapine, but Oblaks Tafa's up there. Like Oblaks Tafa keeps doing a job in the middle for the Dolphins, so I love to see that as well. A little bit of football. Any more deeper cuts about Chris Wood in his first game of the season for Nottingham Forest? Any stuff that we didn't discuss at the top of the podcast?
Well, he did get one offside, so that's an important factor as he sets out to try and retain his golden flag that he won for the third time in his career last season. I laid out some sort of stats and records and stuff that he's angling towards in the newsletter. The one that everyone seems to be quite buzzed about is the 100 Premier League goals mark, which he started on 89. One game later, he's already up to 91. That's cool. Like that's obviously a great milestone, and not so many people have done that in Premier League history. I do get a little bit bored about the trope of like every time he scores a goal, people go and be like, here are the players who he's now overtaken on all-time Premier League record things. It's cool, but like we've done you can't do the same joke every time. It's not a joke, but I'm not really learning anything from that. But I've had one of these targeted for a long time, which I've been waiting for, and he's so close to it now. That's 92 goals, because 92 goals is Mark Viduka's total, and Mark Viduka is the highest scoring Australian player in the Premier League history. Chris Wood, 91, just scored 2 last week, scores 2 next week. He'll go overtake, like he could do this in a couple of days' time. He's right there on the brink. That would take him to, well, that would mean the New Zealand, it's hard to say, you can't say Oceania anymore, because even though Australia was part of Oceania for part of Mark Viduka, like the early stages of Viduka's career, they haven't been for a long time. However, the simplest way to put it would mean the New Zealand record is higher than the Australian record, and we like those kind of things, so that's cool. That's one thing I'm That's the Chris Wood record that I'm most looking forward to. It doesn't sound like he's going to have any Kiwi teammates to cheer with him as it happens, though, because Marko Stamenic, as we record, is on the brink of a transfer. Sound like a permanent transfer too, by the according to what's being reported, to Swansea City in the English Championship. So that would mean 4 current All Whites would have made transfers to Championship clubs, second tier clubs in England, which is a very high standard league, but as well as that, like a really, really competitive league, which is seems good for the further development of these many guys. Obviously, Kakache at Wrexham, we got Max Crocombe at Millwall, we got Tyler Bindon on loan at Sheffield United, and we're soon to have Marko Stamenic at Nottingham Forest. Did also just get Matt Garbutt popping up finally. Matt Garbutt popping up with a new club, Peterborough United in England's League One. So that's the same level as Ben Waine is playing at, which is maybe like arguably a dip below what he might be capable of. But at the same time, I don't think he's really been able to show in his club career what he's capable of. Like, he played a bit in Sweden with Falkenbergs to start his career. They got relegated. He went to Italy, played with Torino, but really only played for their under-19s team. And then I think made like a 5-minute appearance off the bench of the first team in a cup game. Never played a Serie A game. Goes to Netherlands, where he signs with NAC Breda as a second division club. And then they get a freaky promotion where they went on a run through the playoffs, and only played 13 games in the top flight before the coach decided he wasn't part of the plans and wanted a more disciplined midfielder in that role and iced him out. So he hasn't really done, like, the Matt Garbutt hype is mostly built of what he's done for the All Whites and at the Olympics rather than what he's done in his club career. So I don't know that club scouts are looking at that type of stuff a whole lot. I think they're much more interested in what you've done for your clubs. And Garbutt just doesn't quite have the track record to demand more. But also, I think a move to League One is quite a nice level for him, because it is a level that, if it clicks, he can dominate that. He can be really awesome at that level. And I think his style of play probably does suit that standard too. So, and more than anything, it should be the type of division where he's able to get good, consistent, regular selection as well, and play a lot of football, which is the main thing he has not done for a long time. He hasn't played a club game since December, believe it or not. Like, it was 8 months ago. So it's been a tough time for him, but he is back now, and he does have a club again. Ironically, he was getting selected for all-white squads all the time while he wasn't playing with his previous club. But now that he's got a new team that wants to play him, he can't play for the all-whites because they don't break for international breaks. So that's why him and Ben Waine and Nick Zanev and Tommy Smith all missing from the current all-white squad that was named this morning. Plus a couple injuries in there. I think Nando Planaka sounds like he's had a pretty bad one and is going to be out for a couple months. And Bill Tuiloma was in the last squad. He's not there anymore because he pulled a hamstring after finally getting a bunch of games. Plays no football for ages. Finally starts to get to play a bit of football. Keeps going off with cramps and then pulls a hamstring. So I guess maybe it's a bit hard to go from nothing to mid-season conditioning like that. I think we can see Bill Tuiloma as a victim of that, but was an interesting all-white squad named. It was a very interesting all-white squad. The presence of a certain Ryan Thomas more than anything.
And just quickly, just to wrap up the England stuff. So Chris Wood's in the Premier League, Kakache, Crocombe, Bindon, Stamenic in or likely to be in the Championship, and then Ben Waine and Matt Garbutt are in the tier below Championship.
With Nick Zanev and Matt Dibley-Diaz in the tier below that, where you've also got Marley Luluwai's started at the first couple of games of the season for Burnley's under-21s team. They're back in the Premier League, so that's for an under-21s team at a Premier League club. Joe Wallace has made, and Henry Gray as well, have both played a game or two at least for the West Brom as goalkeepers, West Brom and Ipswich under-21s as well, which play in the same league. They're championship clubs, but they play in the same under-21s league as Burnley do. So there's a couple of young players who are on the rise as well. To a lot of players in England right now. A lot of Kiwi male footballs in particular playing in England at the moment.
So you're telling me Tommy Smithwood and I is not in this all-white squad because he's playing in the lower leagues of England, so they're not taking a break. So we can chill on the fact that Tommy Smith-Winanai is not in this All White squad, and he's definitely going to be in the World Cup squad. This is not a Tommy Smith being dropped situation.
This is, to my best guess, this is not a Tommy Smith being dropped situation. It would be very out of character for Darren Baisley if it were. And I think everything else about the squad feels very in character for Darren Baisley. For example, if you take into account the 6 players that I mentioned who were out for the reasons that I mentioned, each of them one of either 2 reasons. Either they're injured or their clubs don't break for international duty, and they've only recently signed with those clubs, and therefore it's going to stick back and try to embed their places there, like Finn Sermon did at Portland Timbers to miss the World Cup qualifiers at the start of the year, and that worked out well for him because next thing he's a first 11 player for Portland, and he hasn't lost that spot since, even though they've been a little bit shaky in the last couple games. That all stacks up with how Baisley likes to operate, and also stacking up with Baisley's tendencies is that he has picked the best case scenario kind of team. He's not resting anyone for other reasons. Everyone wants to be there. He wants to pick everyone. They're like early in the season, they might have had other coaches could have said like, Libby Kikache, you didn't play on the weekend because you got a little bit of a tight hamstring, and your early days with Wrexham, maybe you don't really have anything to prove with them. You were a record transfer at the time, although they've since signed 2 different players who cost more than what they paid for Kikache. You probably are a first 11 player already. You're not trying to earn that the way that Finn Sermon was at the start of the year. You're not an unproven player trying to work up, but maybe you can have a rest for this one. Other coaches might have seen it that way. Darren Baisley tends not to. He just wants his best players around. And then if it comes time to be like, he's not at 100% for the second game, maybe we won't play him in that game. Those decisions get made, but not leaving them out of the squads entirely. So it is the strongest squad he could have picked. That is interesting in a couple of areas because no Tommy Smith and also no Nando Panika and also no Bill Tuiloma, but he hasn't picked another centre back. So it's just Boxall, it's Sermon, and it's Bindon. But those are the only 3 guys that really play anyway because they're the best 3 by a comfortable margin. And he seems to be using those extra spots to have an extra bit of a look at the fullback. So James McGarry's back in there after quite a while out. And yeah, Ryan Thomas is in. Also, I should mention Logan Rogerson, Jesse Randall on the back of a couple good performances for Auckland FC. And another Auckland FC player who's been selected is Ollie Sale, recently minted of the Auckland FC variety, signed yesterday in a move which I think people just need to take the hints that have been offered, which is not that Ollie Sale is coming in to take Michael Vowd's spot as the number 1, but that Ollie Sale will come in and be the number 2. And why would Ollie Sale accept that he's going to be the second choice goalkeeper? Well, first of all, he's not going to accept that. He's going to be doing his very best to overtake it. But what I'm saying is he hasn't been promised the number 1 spot at Vowd's expense. Sale will have to earn that. Vowd will have to lose that kind of thing. From Auckland FC's perspective, great signing because you've got an experienced A-League goalkeeper who can, who bulks out your goalkeeping department and is going to put pressure on Vowd so that he knows he has to perform. Whereas the alternative was that if Vowd struggled, well, you've got a 23-year-old Scott Morris who is injured, which is why they've signed another goalkeeper. But Scott Morris was the number 2, and they've played a senior professional game, so there's quite a bit of a drop off there to where maybe Val might have felt more comfortable, and he might not be the goalkeeper you want to be feeling too comfortable because he himself sat on the bench for every single game last season, hadn't played until the Aussie Cup games, and hasn't really been a number 1 starter very often in his career. Just really their one stint with Elmer City in the second tier of Dutch football. So I think Sale stacks up perfectly from a club perspective, makes perfect sense why you'd want to sign him. Why would Sale accept an early release from Perth Glory? Well, they did sign Mark Barraghetti, and he's already had himself a bit of a back and forth with their local keeper, Cameron Cook, I think it is, someone Cook. So he might not have felt the safest anyway. He might have already been told he was going to be the backup for Perth Glory coming into the season. In which case, would you rather be the backup in Western Australia for the worst team in the A-League, or would you rather be the backup in your hometown of Auckland for maybe the best team in the A-League, or at least a championship contender? Like, I think that makes perfect sense as to how this affects his All Whites. Well, he's gone straight back into the All Whites, so
Yeah, it
there's
was,
that. But also, he's only really gone straight back in because Nick Zanev isn't available because he's busy, and he's busy with Newport County because they don't break for the thing. And Zanev has been fantastic in his first couple games for Newport. He's been really, really good for them. He's not getting dropped on the back of that. Darren Baisley is watching those games, or at least watching those highlights and tracking those stats and things like that. Hopefully, checking out the highlight clips that I shared of a couple of his saves, including a penalty save on the weekend. Um, Ollie Sale hasn't overtaken anyone to get back into the All Whites. It's just that someone else is absent. So I think that's what's happened. And he might well find himself in a month's time. Michael Vowd starts playing A-League games. Well, he might actually jump ahead of Sale and the All Whites pecking order as well in similar squads if the same thing is true, later in the year and Zanev isn't available.
that's what
So
they, it was just, it's a weird situation because Ollie Sale is the backup goalkeeper for Auckland FC, but he is in the All White squad ahead of the goalkeeper.
yeah,
He's the backup at Auckland FC. Does Michael Wow, does he have All Whites upside? Because I think we've got a maybe a clear top three, from what I've heard from you: Alex Paulson, Max Crocombe, maybe Max Crocombe, Alex Paulson, Nick Zanev. Then we're dealing in the Michael Weld, Ollie Sale territory.
yeah. Zanev is closer to the Vowd and Sale territory than he is to Crocombe and
So a
Paulson as
clear
well. So
top two.
it's a clear top two,
Yeah.
and everyone else is competing for number three. And I think Kay Sims is the next best goalkeeper, but until he's playing regularly for his club in Sweden, where he's the backup for a team challenging for European spots in Sweden, he's the backup goalkeeper. I mean, he's pretty good, but also might not be the situation you take him away from for the international window to sit on the bench and not do anything. There's another consideration as well, as we're talking about a third choice keeper here in the squad. And there are certain things you want from a third choice keeper that don't really have a lot to do with playing games. Like at a World Cup, yeah, sure. You need everyone you just pick your best three goalies because they might need to play in a 2-game series. You might, even if you rotate two, your goalkeepers, only two of them are still getting the game, the other guy doesn't. So you kind of just want to, I think Ollie Sale he's not quite Tommy Smith level minor, but he is a experienced player who is a good teammate to have around and will stay late on the training field and help the other two and things like that. So I think that's part of and he's local and
Yeah.
available,
Yeah.
right? So we're playing games against Australia. The one is in Canberra, one is in Auckland. So I expected a bit of an A-League presence anyway. It's actually less of an A-League presence than I was thinking would happen. Like all of the major European-based players, except for the ones I mentioned at League One clubs, have been selected. So like a high quality team, but yeah, there's quite a few little concessions as part of the Ollie Sale conundrum, because you're right, it is quite a weird situation with the way things have aligned, but there are reasons for that, which hopefully I explained
Yeah. Yeah.
there.
If you're dealing with the third choice goalkeeper, I mean, it's just logical that, yeah, it's an honour to play for New Zealand. It's an honour to be selected for the All Whites. But if you're the third choice goalkeeper, let's just save a bit of money on flights and get the guy who's already in this part of the world, who, as you said, has got a bit of experience at this level. Because that's like Randall, Rogerson's probably in the mix to get game time off the bench, but this is an all-white squad where, as you said, Ryan Thomas is coming back. We got Sarpreet Singh, we got Joe Bell, Costa Barbarousis, Eli Just, Ben Old,
Chris Wood,
Chris Wood, Stamenic. right? Like no A-League dude is being selected ahead of them. And so when you're dealing with those, and it's a good development opportunity. Like if you're Randall, get him in the mix, get him in the All Whites. It is dependent on the situation with the lower leagues in England, as you've laid out. But it's you gotta pick and choose your moments when you can do this stuff, and the situation of, well, there's a bunch of factors in the situation. You got the players in England who can't have a break because they're not good enough, pretty much. Is that it? Like, so the Premier
But
League,
well, their teams aren't, yeah.
yeah,
So there's not enough players miss international games for them to bother pausing for
yeah.
international rounds. Is what the deal is. Which for a long time that was All White's number one goalkeeper Max Crocom's problem too. It's only this season that he's moved up to the championship where they break for international windows and where he can. I think that, like there are rules where if you have a like is a certain number, I don't know, 3 or 4 or 5 international call-ups, you can tell the league and they will postpone your game. Like you can get a one-off team postponement for that reason, but that's kind of rare that you have that many internationals because for one thing, it's an English league. Most of the players are English and no one's been picked for England out of League One, right? So yeah, um,
Yeah, you don't
it
have
can
like a
happen,
lot
but it's
of
pretty rare.
Brazilians going to play third
No, but you
division.
do have like Jamaicans and New Zealanders
Yeah,
and
yeah,
Australians and maybe a Ugandan or things like that. There's a
yeah.
lot of countries in the world, so it can happen.
Ryan Thomas. So Ryan Thomas is back in the squad. There's a bit of buzz. He's the headline act of the squad. Is he? So again, all those players I just mentioned, they're midfield strikers. We have talked a lot about the excitement we have for Tyler Bindon, Finn Sermon, and the centre backs, which is why it's a bit weird, the Tommy Smith situation, because the other centre backs, the younger centre backs, to me, are just way better than him. Respect to what Tommy Smith did as a backup centre back at Auckland FC last season, and as a backup striker a few times. With respect to that, he's not in the same class as Tyler Bindon. He's not in the same class as Finn Sermon, let alone Michael Boxall.
Michael Boxall, who's older than him, but yeah, and
Crikey,
also
Jackie.
does a good job as the emergency striker too.
Yeah. And Nando Pinecker was the starting centre back ahead of Tommy Smith at Auckland FC last season. The other thing about Ollie Sale, former Phoenix player.
Yeah, true.
So I
It's right.
was I was
Another
thinking
one.
about that, just reminded myself. So it could be weird where the only players to play for both teams are goalkeepers, Alex Paulson, Ollie Sale. And
Logan Rogerson
okay,
played a
yeah.
few games before he went to Europe.
And this is big
Callum
derby.
Elliott as well.
All right, so we got a few. This is big derby chat. Like this is a very important New Zealand sports storyline where you got the derby, but you got players playing for both teams. So we got Callum Elliott, Logan Rogerson, Alex Paulson, and maybe Ollie Sale if he does get game time. Have to remind folks, I will be looking out for the Ollie Sale goal kicks that go to no one. That is something that is top of mind when I saw he was signed to Auckland FC. And yeah, I'm sure Wellington Phoenix fans will have a bit of fun with Ollie Sale playing for Auckland if he does get game time. But going back to the inclusion of Ryan Thomas, which started with our centre back depth, I mean, it's the same shit with the midfielders and strikers. So we have Ryan Thomas coming back, but the thing I'm thinking about is, wait, what position is Ryan Thomas?
He is I'd say a deep lying midfielder at this stage of his career. He sits in. He's not like the Alex Rufer tackler, but he's the collect the ball, pass it around, position based type of
So
guy.
is
Covers a
he
lot of ground on the pitch, but yeah, it's the defensive side more than the attacking side at this stage. Used to be more of an attacking midfielder.
is he better than Marco Stamenic or Joe Bell?
He might be. It's hard to tell. They all play in different leagues and they have different attributes, but at the very least, he's as good as them.
Really?
Yeah, Ryan Thomas is awesome.
Yeah, okay.
He's been great. He's played like 200 times or something like that in the top division in the Netherlands. His problem has always just been that he can't stay fit. He's had 3 separate season-ending knee surgeries in his career before he even turned 30. But when he came back last year and started playing a few games in a row, he was talking a lot about how like this is the best he's ever felt. He's basically had his knees reconstructed, both of them, and he just like I don't know, he's talking about like he's just floating around the field again. He feels comfortable. He feels like he's not hampered in any way, shape, or form like he used to be. Like he used to be coming back from injuries and still battling through it. And the talk was that, or the implications from Darren Baisley had always been that he's constantly in talk with in communication with Ryan Thomas. He's always talking about Ryan Thomas at no point has ever said, like, I don't want to play for the All Whites again. That's not something I'm considering. It was just always a case of when I'm fit enough to add the extra workload, then I will do it. And from what Baisley had been saying towards the end of last season, as Thomas started to play quite a few games in a row, and he's captain of Pickswaller now this season as well. I think they got a new manager, and he's made Ryan Thomas the captain, longest serving player I think at the club, because their previous captain, who'd been there quite a while, left at the end of last season. I think that's true. And yeah, the implication was that Thomas would probably want to get a month or two into the season before he starts thinking about that. And we're more looking at the October window than the September window. But now here comes the September window and he's in this squad. So he's clearly feeling great. He's got through 90 minutes in both of the first 2 games of the season. First time in my life I can remember covering Ryan Thomas where there's been no setbacks during preseason. No talk of like, oh, he's just going to sit out this game with a little niggle, or we're going to ease him back in, won't not play him until like the 3rd or 4th game just to make sure he's at, none of that stuff. Full capacity the whole way through. And he must be feeling fresh if he's already ready to return to always football after this. So yes, but I guess the point you're making is that we already have a really good midfield. And how do you fit Ryan Thomas into that midfield? I don't know how you do it. Yeah. I think the answer is that even without Matthew Garbutt there, I think you don't fit all those guys on the pitch at the same time. But what that means is that if someone gets injured, you got someone else ready to go. That means if you're playing the 3rd game in a week in a World Cup group stage and you're pressing for a winner and Marko Stamanic has played every minute to that point, maybe he's looking a bit tired. Well, you might have Alex Rufer or Joe Bell or Mike Galbert or Ryan Thomas or someone like that, probably a couple players of that capacity on the bench ready to go. You just sub them in. You can just sub them in. You've got the depth.
It's less about like the same team and just more about the players New Zealand has. So you're telling me Ryan Thomas, he's better than Joe Bell, Marko Stamanic. Ultimately,
well, it's on par.
But don't worry about the nuts and bolts.
Same tier level.
Yeah, ultimately, they're 3 awesome midfielders.
Yeah,
who are deeper midfielders. Ahead of them in the formation, Sarpreet Singh Bennell.
And Matt Garbutt. And Callum McCallum. And Eli Just.
Well, I've got Just here, obviously I don't know anything, but Matt Garbutt's not in the squad, so he's out. And I don't have Callum McCallum in the same class as Singh and Bennell. Is that fair?
Well, did you see his assist on the weekend where he fell over and still managed to put the ball through? No, McCallum's been in like career best form through the last half of last season, and he's carried it on to the start of this season. He starts every game for Silkeborg in the Danish division. I think he's also fantastic. Like he's part of the same conversation as he's at least as good as like on the same level as Old, and I've always felt like Singh's a little bit ahead of those other guys. More because of his always performances than what he's been able to achieve at club level, where at this point you'd kind of have to say, other than the 2 appearances he made for Bayern Munich, he's kind of done less than what Justin McCall and have now put together. Old less so because he's only in his 2nd year out of the A-League. But that's 4 outstanding players there who can cover at best 3 positions. All of them can play. All of them can play left wing, center, attacking midfield, or right wing. But what I mean is, you can only there's 4 players without even including Garbutt or Rogerson or other depth. There's room for 3 of them in a starting lineup. We could pick a second 11 that's also really, really good.
But then, like, so if you got a midfield triangle, Bell, Stamenic, and Thomas can play any position of that midfield triangle.
Yep.
And the strikers, we've got Chris Wood, Costa Barbarouses, and then Eli Just is more of a striker, a wide attacker striker.
Wide attacker or in behind the striker. I wouldn't play him as the centre forward, but he's mostly, I think for the All Whites recently, he's mostly played out wide. For Motherwell at the moment, he's playing more through the middle. So as that attacking Sarpreet Singh, attacking midfielder type role, which, yeah, I mean, Sarpreet Singh might not even make that squad if you got Thomas, Bell, Stamenic, etc. Like, you might just pick those 3 in there and then have one of them further forward. Probably Stamenic is the attacking one of those 3. So,
but then,
nice options for Darren Baisley.
Well, we're not stopping there, because
we're not stopping there.
The next one is, you can't have Kakache and De Vries. You can have them in the same team, because you've been telling me for the last year or so that Kakache isn't just playing left back. He's playing left midfield. He's playing every position, and he's an absolute unit that he can play a lot of different positions. But you've got him and De Vries competing for a left back slot, and we know, as awesome as Kakache is, De Vries has a very specific skill set. And if you're trying to get the ball to Chris Wood, it's a skill set that I like. Things are a bit iffier on the right side of the field because it's Tim Payne, but I don't think he's in the squad. Yeah, he's in the squad.
He's back in the squad.
And then you've got Cullen Elliott as another right back contender. And your other options to me seem to be maybe playing a Tyler Bindon type of dude at like a right centre back or something like that. Boxall right centre back.
You could maybe try Kakache on the right, but yeah, you're makeshifting at that point.
But that's the kind of the interesting zone, because I think, as we've talked about, we've got a lot of depth in the midfield. And the kind of the defensive midfielders, attacking midfielders, all midfielders, a lot of talent, all of which is fairly young and on the rise. And then it's like, how do you differentiate between Francis De Vries and Libby Kakache? Again, the assumption is Kakache all day, because you can't have an A-League pleb as your starting left back ahead of Kakache, who is at the best football club in the world. But De Vries has a very specific skill set that I think is going to be very beneficial for the All Whites. And James McGarry, is he a right back contender?
Left back. So I don't really see exactly what the fit is for. I don't see where he gets his minutes from, but what's interesting about the Kakache De Vries kind of combo tag team thing going on there is that during the last tour, when Darren Baisley, and I think he might have done the same thing in the Oceania qualifiers at a point, when he did come time to put De Vries out there, he just chucked him one on the left wing. He didn't chuck him one in place of Kakache at fullback, or he didn't push Kakache, who's more experienced at playing in more attacking areas as of last season with Empoli, and only as of last season. But he didn't slide Kakache forward and have De Vries at left back. He just sent De Vries up on the left wing and said, I guess because that, you just stay in those areas and whip that ball into the box, because that's what you're here for. It's really specifically that one thing is your legendary crossing, get that ball there where it needs to go. And so he put him in a position where he would get that ball as often in those areas to put that ball there as he could.
That seems like the best move.
And it is. It's like he can't hang there for 90 minutes. He's not a winger. He's very fit, but he's not that fast. He certainly doesn't have the burst of speed that you would need to keep. I mean, you see him get caught out occasionally like this in the A-League, so it's not going to fly to World Cup, but 15 minutes off the bench when you're chasing a goal, that's the situation when you see Francis de Vries getting his always minutes. And he's earned that by what he's done with Auckland FC, which is why it's also quite cool to see Rogerson and Randall in there on the back of good Aussie Cup form, following on from pretty good form towards the end of last season as well. Because, like, there was talk about Ben Gibson, a dual national place for Newcastle Jets, maybe him or Lockie Bayliss, who's also a dual national who played for, did he? No, I think he's still with Newcastle Jets. But he went to the Olympics, so he's actually done some stuff for New Zealand football before, whereas Gibson would be a new recruit, I guess. But that didn't happen. They went with the form options. They didn't pick like a younger guy or an unproven guy who hasn't been in squads before. Randall and Rogerson have been around squads before. This is what I mean about Darren Baisley. Just wants his he's very streamlined towards that World Cup. He wants the best possible squad he can get. And to be fair to those guys, to be fair to De Vries and various others, like the players who maybe are in here getting an opportunity that they might not have otherwise got if every single player was available and it was a full strength squad. I think De Vries at this point would still be in a top choice 23, but Rogerson and Randall probably on the outside looking in. But those guys are in there on form. Maybe you wouldn't say that about Ollie South. Like, we've discussed the third choice goalkeeper conundrum already. Other than that, like, it's the players who have been selected are players who have earned their way in. It's not like we've run out of options. Who can we find? It's the players who are deserving of these call-ups, and there are more who are deserving of call-ups that haven't gotten them because there are only so many spots available.
Moses Dyer?
I was thinking more Andre De Jong, but
Okay.
Moses Dyer, sure. He's had a good start in Cambodia, scored a couple goals already, you know.
Big man.
Better than Taine Ingham, whose debut in Malaysia, he got sent off. Well, no, I got that wrong. He didn't get sent off. That was George Stanger who got sent off in his first game and back in the Scottish Premiership. Taine Ingham scored an own goal on his debut. That's what he did.
I think Asia is for a Kiwi footballer, if you're playing in Malaysia, if you're playing in Cambodia, that's the back blocks. It's
maybe, but they pay well, and it is a very cheap lifestyle. Like, it's good cost of living, you know.
Economics.
Nice place to live, good economics, yes, but probably not getting you in the All Whites.
Right, we have gone way too crazy, so we'll just finish with a bit. I do want to chuck this out. The Blackcaps T20 seamers. I just need your help trying to assess the best Blackcaps T20 seamers. Now, obviously, we're not including Trent Boult because he is
Don't
not
even know who that is.
Yeah, he's shown no indication that he wants to play for New Zealand. Tim Southey is doing a player coach thing. He is taking the piss out of England cricket, to be honest. Like, he's a coach, he's a player in England. He's just taking the mickey out of them over there, so that's good to see. It's like there's just a lot of Kiwis making a lot of money out of England cricket, so we like to see that. And some of these lads, some of those players are on this list. I have got a conservative list of 9 seamers who I can see getting into that World Cup squad as seam bowlers. Jacob Duffy, Matt Henry, Lockie Ferguson, Zach Foulkes, Adam Milne, Ben Sears, wait. No, not 9, because Jimmy Neesham's on my list of stats, but I don't have him. That's ridiculous. But I still got 9
Not
here.
seeing it for Jimmy.
Matt Henry, Lockie Ferguson. So my stats don't include Nathan Smith, but Nathan Smith is an option for the T20 World Cup squad, but he hasn't played. He might not have played any T20 cricket. Let me double check this because this seems a bit crazy. Let me get my ducks in a row. No, he hasn't played a T20 international for New Zealand. So he might not be in this mix. So maybe a better way to say it, I've got 8. I've got 8 seamers. Duffy, Henry, Ferguson, Foulkes, Milne, Sears, O'Rourke, Jamieson. We don't need 8 seamers in a T20 World Cup squad to play in, I think it's in India. And the stats since the start of 2024 are absolutely ridiculous. Duffy averaging 14.2, Henry averaging 17.6, Ferguson averaging 9.2, Foulkes averaging 24.4, Milne averaging 21.5, Sears averaging 24.8, O'Rourke averaging 26.8, Jamieson averaging 20.6. The worst dude there is Will O'Rourke averaging 26.8.
Right, we'll scratch him for starters.
He's gone. But he's the dude, he's played IPL. He's been playing in England. You know, he was part of the Tri-Series. Ferguson and Jamieson, they were being rested, but they're still really good T20 bowlers. So it's got, like, we've had Foulkes, Duffy, and Henry come into the T20 mixer at a very high level. And that has made things pretty complicated. So how are you feeling about how many do we need?
Well, Foulkes is an all-rounder, so that helps.
Same with Smith. Like that's the case for Smith's.
That would be. Although you're probably leaning towards spinning all-rounders if it's in India, which is a very big, very big tick in the Michael Bracewell category.
Glenn Phillips, Michael Bracewell, Mitchell Santner, Rachin Ravindra. Then you got Ish Sodhi as a certified spinner.
Yeah. I mean, I think the 4 spinning all-rounders there are probably all making a squad, aren't they? So therefore, I think maybe you might only need 4 seam bowlers in a squad of 15. Maybe a fifth if you can, squeeze one in as an all-rounder who you can trust a bit higher up in the order. Which even then you don't really need to, because you're going to have spinning all-rounders, including Ravindra, who's going to be in the top 3. So, like, that's not really something they have to manipulate too much. Foulkes, Henry, and Duffy feel like the 3 that definitely should be there. And I think you probably want at least one speedster of those others. The problem is whichever one you pick is going to get injured, and then whichever one you pick to replace them is going to get injured, and then the third guy maybe might stick around for the start of the tournament until they get injured, then you get down to the 4th one. That's generally how those guys get their opportunities, as they rotate with each other based on who's fit at the given moment.
O'Rourke is a speedster, by the way.
O'Rourke is in that category. I was counting him. Jamieson less so, but he is in the injury prone category. So whereas O'Rourke is currently injured, so maybe he's working up towards that. He hasn't really missed a lot of cricket since he got into the Blackcaps, but maybe it's the dawn of that. I don't know how are you shaping it up?
I've got no idea.
That's the problem with it.
Because as awesome as Duffy and Henry are, I just can't imagine a T20 team in India with Duffy and Henry in the same team. It seems like for those Indian conditions, that's when you need your Ferguson. Adam Milne is probably an outsider, but he is a very, very good T20 bowler who has a lot of experience around the world. I guess we're talking about X Factor. So then you're looking at your Will O'Rourkes, your Ben Sears, your Milnes, your Fergusons. However, Duffy and Henry are so good that they kind of have to be there. So, the thing is, we got a series against Australia coming up in September next month, in a few weeks. So that's what we're thinking about. So then, is Jamieson in that squad? Is Lockie Ferguson in that squad? Who gets game time there? And I don't think Matt Henry's played IPL much recently, if ever. Duffy hasn't played IPL. So this would mess with the cricketing world's mind so much. Whereas the Blackcaps are in the T20 World Cup, they're going well, they make the semi-finals because that always happens. except for last year. And they're doing it with Duffy, Henry, and Fox. None of whom are playing IPL. And the dudes who play IPL aren't in the squad, but New Zealand's still winning.
I sort of think that's more likely than if we pick all the IPL guys. Like, I think we're maybe more likely to win with the guys you mentioned than stacking out with the rest of them. I'd go Lockie Ferguson at the top of as far as the speedsters go. I think he's at the front of the queue, and I think there's a key point there about his tournament experience, considering that there's not a lot of that with the rest of the seam bowlers, because even Duffy and Henry, who are a fair bit older than Fox, but haven't really. Well, Henry's got the ODI World Cup experience, and I think what was the tournament? The Champions Trophy was the last tournament they had, eh?
Yeah,
and I think was that the one where Ben Sayers got picked as a bit of a bolter, but then he got injured?
Yes. Oh, he got picked for the T20 World Cup last year, but he didn't.
Oh, the
really
T20 World Cup before that, was it? Yeah, okay.
Because Tim Southee, Trent Bolt was thinking about.
Yeah, that's right, and we did terribly. Because that felt too soon for him. And we have, yes, lost Bolt and Southee since then from that team, so there's a fair bit of experience there. I think he maybe needs to lean on that, and that would be Ferguson or Milne as well. Also has the same thing, but I think Ferguson's just a bit better at this stage. But like I say, whoever you pick's just going to get injured, so you'll end up with the other one anyway.
If I had to select 5, I'd go Duffy, Henry, Ferguson, Foulkes, O'Rourke.
Yeah, so would I. I might have some touch and go on O'Rourke just in T20 format compared to one or two of the others. Like, I think you can make a case for Sears, you can make a case for Milne, but I think I'd probably lean that way as well.
Beauty. That is our podcast for this week. Make sure you're tuned in to Niche Case across all platforms. Bonus podcasts for the paid subscribers and the Patreon whānau, so big up to them. Watch out for that on Thursday, as well as the newsletter. And of course, we'll be doing our typing thingamajigs for about the website. Good wordsmith action at the end of the podcast. Big up to you. Kia kaha, stay beautiful. Church.